Well, good afternoon, everybody. Happy Friday. It's Thursday for us, but it will be Friday when you are listening to this, or Saturday, or sometime years from now. Today, we have the opportunity to interview Micka Enriquez, who is a missionary for CSI that we at Buell Bible Church support. And she has volunteered her time to spend a few minutes just talking. We're just going to have a conversation. We're going to talk about life and get a little bit of her history and what she does in her ministry and good things like that. So stay tuned. We hope you enjoy the episode, and we'll be right back. All right. Well, Micka, thank you for taking the time to come on.
Yeah, of course.
You have shared at our church a few times. Mm-hmm. You were just here last Sunday,
yes,
and we had the opportunity to hear your your testimony a little bit about ministering at the college campuses and how important it is that the gospel goes out to the college campuses these days. So I thought it would be awesome if we just kind of back up and we just do kind of a little bit about your life and coming to Christ and then being called into the ministry that you're called in and what life is like. So where are you from?
Yeah, so I grew up in Utah.
Mm-hmm.
I was born in New Mexico, but my mom's family is all in Utah. So I grew up in Utah.
Cool.
My mom taking me and my brother to church every Sunday. So that was definitely something that was ingrained in me from a child, is the importance of church.
So you would say you got saved as a kid?
Yes, yeah. I think specifically like first summer at youth camp. Right. I think you hear the Bible stories growing up and you're like, okay, this is cool. I think I know who God is, but it becomes more real as you start to understand more about what it means to have a relationship with him. And 7th grade or summer of 8th grade was when I really encountered Jesus and was like, oh, he loves me and he cares for me. And it's not just something I'm hearing, but it's something I've experienced. So it was the first time I got to experience God's peace. I think I had a very hard 7th grade year transitioning from elementary to junior high.
For sure.
And that was when God was like, hey, here's my peace. I love you. And I was like, cool. I want to do this then for the rest of my life. And I got baptized that fall. So
we,
love that.
On this podcast, we have a lot of different guests from different denominational backgrounds. And do you remember what kind of church you grew up in?
Yes. So I grew up going to an Assemblies of God church.
Okay.
So Pentecostal.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
very charismatic.
Yeah.
So whenever I come to Buell Bible Church, I love worshiping with the congregation because they're a little bit more expressive than the church I go to. So
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. We love the gifts of the Spirit and operating in those. So that's, and I've interviewed people from, the most what they call high church, which would be like Presbyterians and some Baptists, where it's a totally different model of worship. And what I've learned is everybody loves their style of worship, and we do have a little bit of that in our congregation, mixed multitude of people coming from different backgrounds and whatnot. So cool. So you're, where do you go to church now?
I go to the Twin Falls Church of the Nazarene.
Oh, Nazarene, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I met the pastor from there. I don't know if he's the same pastor now, but he came to a conference here once.
Oh, cool.
And it was we had a good conversation. So you had this, we do youth ministry, so we see this a lot where kids, they transition from elementary into middle school. And then there's another transition from 8th grade into high school. So how long were you in Utah after you had this experience with God? You gave your life to him.
So Utah from, I think 5 until 20, how old am I now? 23? So spent like the majority of my years, my youth, and college in Utah. So,
So what brought you to Idaho then?
Ministry. So that is why I'm here. God called me to do ministry
Now,
in Idaho.
did you start serving at your church?
Yeah. So I've always been really involved with my church. I was part of the student servant leader team, I guess is what they called it. When I was I think junior high, but high school especially, helped with worship, helped plan some of the games and things like that. Gave a couple like really, really short sermons. But yeah, so I was super involved serving, and then served on my church's worship team starting in high school. So always super involved, loved going to my church. It was the first community that I experienced belonging in. So love church.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That.
How did the ministry bring you here particularly?
Yeah, so I got involved with InterVarsity when I was in college.
Okay,
so
what's InterVarsity?
InterVarsity is a college ministry. It's called InterVarsity Christian Fellowship.
Is this a nationwide ministry?
Yes,
okay.
nationwide ministry. It's part of a larger movement of like student ministries called the International Fellowship of Evangelical Students, or IFES. And essentially that just means there's campus movements in Canada and England and Africa and Mexico. So like we're just a part of that bigger picture, but InterVarsity is here in the United States and is on colleges across the country. So,
Oh, cool.
yeah. So it was at my college. One of my friends in youth group, she was a couple years older. So when she was in college, talked to me about it a lot. She's like, oh, I'm doing this small group in InterVarsity. It's super cool. And I was like, cool. Like I didn't understand what it was. But when I was in college, I found InterVarsity at a club fair. And I was like, oh, I heard about this. Like they're Christians. I need community. I need friends. Like my church didn't have anything for young adults. So I didn't know what the next step was for me. And so, yeah, got involved, and it was really, really formative and transformative for my time in college. So learned how to study the Bible. We study it really in depth, ask a lot of questions, and then always apply it to our lives. That's something I really enjoyed, was like, oh yeah, we don't just read the Bible. We make sure it's transforming us when we study it. And then it was also the first time I really got to experience following Jesus with a community of people. So not just me and Jesus, but like my community and Jesus.
Right.
And that was really cool. And it was also like, I grew up smaller, maybe a little sheltered, smaller church. So going to college, it was cool to be with a community that was really diverse, but they loved Jesus. And we got together because we loved Jesus. I don't know if I would have like hung out with them if it wasn't because of Jesus. And so, yeah, in my time in InterVarsity, God just really started softening my heart and breaking my heart for college students. College is rough. And I think now it's even harder than it was even when I was a student.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially like I graduated in 2020. So students who had to do online school or, some of those formative years where when you couldn't be in person, yeah, definitely make it harder now. So yeah, my last year of college is when I just felt God. Well, second year of college really felt God stirring that up in me. And then at a Assemblies of God conference actually is when I felt the call to do college ministry.
Okay.
Backstory. That's for summer at that my first summer at youth camp is actually when God called me to missions. So that's something I had forgotten until my first year interning with InterVarsity.
Yeah.
But at our camps every week there was like a "Are you called to ministry night?" Like a calling night. And I remember just like very clearly God being like, "You are called to missions in the United States." I was like, that's lame.
Sounds much less dramatic.
I want to go to Uganda or Africa. Come on, send me somewhere else.
No, exactly. It was like all of the cool missionaries go internationally, like in the United States. So I'd forgotten about it. But lo and behold, confirms that calling. Summer of my last year of college, then I decide to do ministry. Intern my first 2 years at Weber State University in Ogden. And in that first year, when I was really wrestling with calling, was when God was like, "Hey, remember when you were a teenager and I called you to this?" I was like, "Oh, so I am supposed to do this. Like, this makes sense." So yeah, and then Utah, Intermountain area, there's a lot of staff there. And at my school, there was a lot of staff. And so there wasn't as many opportunities for me to grow in ways that I wanted to. And I had college friends in Idaho, been to Boise a few times. And yeah, so I came with my supervisor, prayer walked CSI, and then just very clearly God saying, "I'm here at CSI. I'm moving and I want you to join me.
And you're a junior at CSI now?
I'm not a student.
Oh, you're not a student.
No.
You learn something new every day?
Yeah, so no, everyone assumes that I'm a student. For sure. That's okay.
All right. Well, at least I don't feel bad. I'm not the only one.
No. Students ask me, other people ask me, like, it's a common assumption. No, I graduated with my bachelor's in 2020.
Oh, okay.
And so I've been post-college for 5 years now.
Yeah.
Wild.
Good for you. That's awesome.
But no, so I work full-time for university. So
Yeah.
that's my role. That's my job.
That's great. Yeah. Now,
So-
go ahead.
So what all is involved in how you do ministry with InterVarsity as compared to, I don't know, any other college leaning ministry?
Yeah. There's probably a lot of similarities, right? A lot of emphasis on outreach and fun because, you got to draw them in, got to give them free food.
Honestly,
Yep.
very similar to youth group.
Yep.
Very similar to
yeah.
any ministry. If you give them food, they will come.
That is true. Yes. So that's a big emphasis. I know we emphasize a lot in Bible study and specifically like the way that we study it, we manuscript. So we like write all over the passage. We provide the passage for them and just tell students, be curious. What do you notice? What are your questions? Okay, great. Based on what we're seeing, how do we apply that to our lives? So it's really friendly to both people who are young in their faith, non-Christians who are curious, and then people who have been involved in church and know the Bible. Because you're all you encourage them to come in from the same level of like, be curious, even if you know stuff, like be curious. You never know what you might see or miss if you're not looking for it.
Honestly, that so much fits the theme our podcast often has of not just coming in with presuppositions of, well, this is the theology that my particular branch of church taught me, but let's go to the Word of God and let's see what it's saying and go from there.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
That's cool. So yeah, Bible study, lots of fun. We do leadership development, discipleship, prayer, weekly prayer. Let's see. There's so much. What am I forgetting? Oh, evangelism. Duh. We have InterVarsity has their own missions trips that they offer in the summer called global programs. Once a semester, we have a retreat or a camp. Every 3 years, InterVarsity has a missions conference. So this year, Urbana Missions Conference is happening. And that's really cool. That was another thing that was formative in me, like discerning my call to college ministry. And then we do like a large group gathering, which is where we have worship, we have a speaker, and we have fun. I don't think I'm missing anything. I think that's a lot of it. Yeah.
That's so typical of ministry. It's hard to really categorize everything that you do because it just flows and there's always new things to meet.
Yeah. So how long have you been full-time with InterVarsity?
So full-time.
This is a new development. I was going to say,
1 month.
This is a new development. That's awesome, though.
Yes, it's really exciting.
Yeah.
Because of my funding, and finally, I was able to talk with my supervisor and be like, I know we've been trying to get me full-time. Like, love to get health benefits, other benefits. And end of June. So our fiscal year ended in June. He was like, yes, we're putting in that request for you. And so
that's
officially
awesome.
Full-time, eligible for benefits. Super exciting.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
That's a huge step. That's a awesome provision from the Lord. When you get to step into full-time ministry, it's kind of another level from doing bivocational ministry because now you're truly dedicating basically everything you have to the ministry. And I'm not saying bivocational people don't do that, but there's definitely a change when you become a full-time minister. So that's congratulations. We are happy for you. And we're glad that we can, as a Beal Bible Church, everybody here be able to support you and help you in all those ministries. So now I know you've only been there for a month, but you've been there for much longer than a month.
Yes.
I mean, you've been doing InterVarsity for years. So what does your week look like? And I want to get into the college ministry specifically here in a minute. But before I get there, I want it what does your week look like? So what time do you go to the college? What time do you leave the college? Do you hang out there? Do you eat lunch there? What do you do?
Yeah. It honestly depends on what part of the semester it is. Beginning of the semester, super full, always on campus. Middle semester is when things kind of calm down. But so let's do typical first few weeks of school. We call it our new student outreach or NSO season. And it's the first 5 weeks of school. And we are emphasizing on building relationships and making connections, because we recognize that the first few weeks of school is when incoming students are the most open to community and the most open to Jesus. And so we really are like, okay, we need to be on campus, we need to have our interest table, and we need to make sure we're having fun events that students can come to, whether they're a Christian or not, just community building events. And so the first week of school, woo, we have our interest table Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday. So that's, I get up, get ready, do my time with Jesus, devotional prayer. I'm like, okay, God, help me get through this day, because I know I'm going to be tired by the end of it.
For sure.
And then we go and set up our interest table in the cafeteria, and we spend like 2 to 3 hours meeting new students. So we have some kind of draw. This year, we're going to do soda floats. So hoping students will want free ice cream and soda, who knows? And we'll just talk to them about Jesus and invite them to our small groups and tell them about all the events we have going on. Then I'll do that. And usually the first week of school, I like go home and I nap. I'm like, great.
It's like VBS, but for college.
Yes, truly. And I think it might be, oh yes. So I'll have a student leadership team this year. So that's new. So we'll have meetings Monday afternoons where we will go over all of the contacts that we've gotten and say, okay, who did you talk to? Great. Let's put this in the spreadsheet. You're in charge of messaging them and following up with them and inviting them to stuff for the first 5 weeks. And they're like, cool. And then, I do a lot of like administrative stuff. So that's like planning for prayer meetings or leadership meetings, prepping Bible study, planning events, doing stuff for our social media, all of the above.
Now, do you have any other co-worker minister people with you?
Not at CSI, no.
Okay.
My coworkers are at Boise State University,
Okay.
and there's 2 of them. So
Cool.
3 of us in all of Southern Idaho.
Yeah.
Which is, we're growing, we're planting. The goal is to have an intern by the end of next school
I wonder.
year.
I don't know off the top of my head. I wish I had like somebody that could just look this up for me. But I wonder how many college campuses there are just in Southern Idaho alone.
That's a great question.
I'm sure there's more than we think.
Yes. It's like, I don't know how many. I used to, but I don't have it off the top of my head. But so then that'll kind of be Monday, Tuesday. I think we're going to try to start our weekly prayer meetings the first week of school. So that'll be on a Tuesday. And then not the first week, but starting the second week, we'll have our small group starting. So I'll lead a small group Tuesday night at 7. Another group of students will lead one at Tuesday night at 7. And that'll be something that we do every week.
That's awesome.
And then Wednesday, first week of school, is the community fair, which is super fun. That's where we got a lot of our consistent students. This past year was at the community fair. And we're out there for a few hours. It's so fun just to meet people. I love meeting people. So beginning of the school year is super fun. And then our first event will be that night. So we'll spend time texting every single person that we connected with. And then, on a new student outreach, tabling day, I'll try to be on campus at 10:30. I try to be there during lunch because that's where all of the students are in the cafeteria. So I get an hour of kind of quiet working, and then I just eat with my students, talk with them. Sometimes, they're going through stuff. And so we'll talk about life and whatever. It's harder to get work done because I'm with my students. So that's why I like to go a little early. And then I'll try to stay on campus until 3:30, depending on what's going on. Let's see. Twice a month on Thursday, we have our large group. So we'll have worship practice. Then we'll have.
You mentioned you do worship.
I do.
You lead worship?
I do.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Piano and guitar, both?
Piano.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, piano and vocals, and then have students who do so. So that's super fun.
That's that's always a big thing. Anytime you can bring music into it, it just, I don't know. People are attracted to music. And it's a gift from God, so we can use it to glorify Him, to draw people in, to prep their hearts to receive the gospel. Anything we've seen being worship leaders, and even just being at different worship events. God has done work in our hearts. We've seen God do work in, especially when you go to a youth camp. When the worship starts to hit, the tears start to flow. Everyone's ready to receive the gospel.
Yeah. So worship is something my students love. So we've only done. I don't think we did large group was the first year doing it was last year. The year before we had some worship nights. My students were like, we want more worship. And I was like, great, we'll do more worship. And so we're going to do even more worship. But it's cool because we'll also get a chance to invite like pastors and other ministry leaders in to come speak to my students about just the different things they have going on. So yeah, on Thursday nights, we'll do, I'll like work like a shorter amount of time during the day because in the evening, I'll probably be with students for like 4 or 5 hours. So such like, late nights sometimes.
Yeah.
So yeah, worship practice, then we'll start our large group, worship, speaker, games, and then we just hang out afterwards. And then during NSO, every weekend we'll have an event, whether that's a hike or a picnic or what are we doing on campus? Pickleball.
I thought pickleball was an old people sport. No,
my students love pickleball.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah, that's like making a
becoming quite
comeback.
popular.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. But yeah, and then when that season calms down, it's more of like, okay, I'm getting into the prep more. I mean, I do prep during that season, but and then doing like Instagram, social media.
Do you
stuff
run
like
all
that.
your social media?
Yes, I'm gonna split some of the responsibility.
Yeah, that could
with
be
the
a
student
full-time
this
thing
year.
all in
So
itself easily.
Yeah, absolutely.
She's like, I want to make reels, and I was like, make the reels.
Yeah.
I can't
Do
make
it.
the reels.
Yeah. Yeah, that is that takes a lot of time and effort. You look at like a 30 or 60 second reel and you're like, man, that's awesome. But then when you try to build one of those, you're like, takes a long time.
Yes.
There's
Yeah.
hours go into 60 seconds.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but social media is obviously, that's, where we're at in our generation. God has put us here for such a time as this, and social media is a huge part of outreach, and especially, no doubt, for college ministry.
Yes.
Going back to you're in the full-time college ministry, and one of the things that I've learned as being a full-time minister myself is you have these dedicated duties or responsibilities or whatever you want to call them, because it's a job, you're getting paid. So you're finding that balance between, okay, I'm getting paid to do this, but then on top of that, where's the extra, that these things that, I don't get paid to do this, but I'm going to serve here. Like you mentioned, your church is having VBS this week, right?
Yeah.
And so this gives you the opportunity to serve and fill other roles at your church as well. And that's the kind of one of the blessings about being a full-time minister is that you're ministering. Your job is to minister the gospel in whatever way, shape, or form that is.
Yeah.
So you get those, I'm sure, those opportunities, to fill in at your church. Do you get to do worship ever at your church?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah, no doubt. That when you're a worship leader, you want to do worship, of course. Everyone does.
So I imagine with you being full-time now and just with the relationships you've built with your students, there's also an aspect beyond just the regular meetings where you're available to your students throughout the various seasons of maybe really difficult times and things like that. Has the Lord opened up those doors where you've been able to kind of step in and be a comfort and a blessing for your students?
Yeah, for sure. My old roommate, because I moved last month, she lived with me for a year and a half, almost 2 years. But she was a student who, like, we walked through a really difficult breakup together. And it was even before she was fully involved in our chapter. Like, she'd come to a few things, and I like meet one-on-one with students or like with a student. And I remember this has happened a few times with students I've met with, but like within that first meeting with them, I can be like, oh yeah, that relationship, they need to break up. Like, I just know. I'm like, ooh. And so in that first meeting I knew, but then I didn't see her a lot until the end of the semester. And then I think I ended up meeting with her, and I don't fully remember why. And we just had this really good conversation with where she was like, yeah, so like, no, I think she texted me, was like, I think I need to break up with my boyfriend. I was like, okay, let's meet. Like, what's going on? And so she's like talking to me about it, and she's like, yeah, well, like God told me. And I was like, oh, so then why haven't you done what God's told you to do? I was like, clearly he's asking you to be obedient in this area.
God told me, but I need to check with you first.
Yeah, no, it was so funny. And I was like, cool, I don't even need to call you out. Like, you know what needs to happen. And it was just this really beautiful conversation. I got to pray with her, pray for the strength to do that. And then like a week later, I get a text from her. She was like, I did it. I'm really scared, but I did it. And then we had to like figure out a living situation for her. So that's why she ended up moving in with me and my roommate at the time. And it was just a really cool year of like more than a year of discipleship, like daily discipleship, where like she was really struggling at the beginning and ended up going back to see him. And it was just this beautiful moment where we could just extend so much grace that she hadn't experienced before. Like we weren't upset with her. We were just like, girl, we get it. It's hard and we're here for you and we want to pray for you. And it was really cool to see just how she healed and grew from that in the time that I knew her. And obviously getting to live with someone, you get to see all the different sides of them.
Absolutely.
But that was like a significant moment of like, oh, this is cool to see her being obedient to God. And then just her continuing to choose into that. And so, and just getting to like walk with her through the different seasons of what that looked like.
Yeah.
So let's dive in and talk a little bit about the spiritual warfare of student ministry, particularly in colleges, colleges, schools, anywhere really can be and are spiritually dark places because, Christianity, the Bible, the truth is challenged, and we live in like post modernism now where it's like, I don't even know if you can have your own truth and I can have my own truth. I think we just think that truth doesn't exist at all. And we are all apt to change whenever. So, and I've heard, testimonies from my older friends who had sent their sons or daughters to colleges who were like, grew up in the church, good, knew the Lord, but then forsook their faith when they got to the college. So, so what's that like? What is some of the spiritual darkness, the challenges, the things that you get to see day in and day out? And then how do you deal with that? You have to have, be super prayed up. And that's another thing that I encourage people on Sunday. I encourage listeners now to be praying for you because your ministry requires a lot of prayer and needs to be charged by the Holy Spirit and it needs to be empowered by Him. So, so what are some of those things? What's the spiritual warfare like?
Well, it's true. There's a statistic that's like 3 out of 5 kids who grew up in church who go out of church. I don't know what I'm saying right now. 3 out of 5 kids who enter college with a church background will leave their faith by the time they're like 30.
3 out of 5.
Yeah.
Wow,
it's
that's a lot.
Huge number. And a lot of it is due to not having a community. Like they just don't have people who they can grow with, who they can do life with. And you see that a lot with students entering college, right? Like loneliness is such a huge, just like, it's spiritual warfare, right? Loneliness, mental health issues are like skyrocketing,
right.
People dealing with depression, anxiety, and then there's also just like, students wanting to, as you said, define their own truth or their own reality or kind of be their own God, I guess.
Yeah,
like I read
absolutely.
this book, I don't remember. InterVarsity has a publishing company, so I got it from there. But it's called You Are Not Your Own. And it was this really good book about like, hey, you are completely God's and like the decisions you make, the places you go, like they are not yours for the choosing. Like you are not your own. I was like, wow, this is really interesting because that's the exact opposite of what students are hearing and what they're experiencing is like, you are making these decisions. Like your happiness is the most important thing. Like you need to strive after comfort or popularity. I think that's huge with social media. Like everyone wants to be an influencer or have a following or, start a podcast or have a YouTube channel.
Absolutely.
Everyone wants to do that and then also have influence and be heard. And so
we are working with high school students, we're always talking about the dangers of social media because you're on your phone, you're scrolling and you're looking at people's best moments. You're never seeing that. Nobody's up there. I mean, except for some people are like, oh, look at this road rash I got on my left thigh from when I crashed my motorcycle or something. But for the most part, they're still trying to get glory from that. But, it's the best. Look at this massive meal that I made, or look at this new car that I got. Look at this new outfit, this new haircut. All of these things, it's their best moments. And then they're filtered up. It's not reality. It's not. And when especially if you're looking at influencers, and when you're doing that, it's causing a massive amount of anxiety in your life. And I'm always exhorting people to give more time to Jesus and less time to social media.
Yes. I think too, like specifically college as well, like hustle culture or grind culture or like just being busy is something that's also kind of like an idol, I would say. Whereas like you look at Jesus and he rested and he's spent time in solitude and in silence and in prayer. And that's just so counter our world that students can get into that habit of like, I have some overachievers, from high school who were like, I did, what is it? 4A. I was in 4-H. I don't know a lot about ag stuff, so I don't really know where I did FFA. Like I was, student body president and also involved in band or theater, or I also had a job. And it was like, so like, when did you rest?
Yeah.
We don't.
When did you like breathe, And I still have students like that. They go into college and like, yes, we encourage them, go to class, study, do well. But your grades aren't everything. Even your career isn't everything.
Right.
And so I think that can be a temptation as well, is to like, okay, I'm in college to get a really good job, to make as much money as I can so I can be comfortable, which is like not a bad thing, but was Jesus in that decision making, right? Are you making Jesus the Lord of your life? And that mean like literally the Lord of everything in your life. And that's something we challenge our students to do. And it's just something they don't like think about a lot or hear a lot. And so, but the encouraging thing, the opposite of that is that students are seeking Jesus and are curious about Jesus, and they just like want something more. And something that's been really cool this past year is because of our community being so welcoming and loving, we've had non-Christian students like be a part of not just our fun things, but our Bible study, our worship nights, even going to camp with us. Like it was pretty wild, some of the students who said yes to these things because they didn't grow up churched or they grew up in a different religious background. And so I was just like so grateful to see that, when people were invitational and being like, come to this thing, or we're so glad that you're here, we love that you're a part of this. They were like, okay, I want to be a part of this community, even if I'm, still figuring out what I believe. And so that's been really encouraging to see. And even this year, Christian students were like, I want to be a part of a college ministry. I want to be a part of a community. Like, I know I need to keep growing in my faith. So I want to be a part of a place that's going to help me do that. And so that was really encouraging to hear this year, because it was the first year that I think, one, students knew more about us. And then two, we were being sought out. And I was like, okay, there's like,
that's fruit.
Yeah,
you're starting to see
this is fruit.
You're starting to see some of the fruit of just the many years of sowing onto the campus. That's awesome.
Yeah, and the longevity too. It's like each year we just build more and more, which is really exciting.
That's such a great trajectory to be on. I've been hearing a lot recently about how Gen Z is this incredible generation right now that is hungry for the truth, that's sick of all the fakeness and the lies and the gender weirdness and all these things. And especially in Gen Z boys, I've heard that there's this huge swing towards Christianity, towards conservatism, towards just good living in general. Is this something that you've been seeing a lot?
Yeah, for sure. And specifically too, like some of my boys are like doing evangelism and wanting to share their faith. And I think a lot of my students are, but I have two male students in particular who are like going out on a weekly basis and just having spiritual conversations with people. And I know the past couple, like the first 2 years at CSI, we struggled to have male participation. But this past year we had an influx, specifically because one of my students and my supervisor worked to specifically reach out to the men on campus. And it's been really cool to see just them like step up and take those, make those important decisions in their faith. And I know a lot of Christian spaces can be like female heavy. And so it's been really cool to see these young men make these decisions for
that's
Jesus.
very true. That's awesome.
Super encouraging.
Yeah.
So Jordan was talking about spiritual warfare. I know on campuses, even specifically from teachers at times, there can be a lot of ideological warfare as far as like, you know, you hear the classic arguments of like evolution and all these things, science is against Christianity, whatnot. But, you know, there are other things beyond that. We grow up in a culture today where you've got gender studies and you've got all these other crazy things that are being really inundated, especially in the female populations in college. So how much of that have you encountered and worked with?
Yeah, I think I've heard a little bit from my students. I think a lot of the humanities professors, they're always like, ugh, humanities. And I'm like, guys, you just got to get through it. Like, you know what you believe. You can speak up for what you believe in. Try not to get, and of course we'll have good conversations, but a lot of the times they're just like, oh, my humanities professors. And I'm like, I know, just, you'll get through it. But yeah. And I've even from some of the like art people, I've had a few students in art, like art majors, and some of their assignments are really interesting. And I'm like, okay, weird. And so we'll like talk through to students about it and just encourage them like, okay, how can you bring your faith into this? Or how can, especially in the arts, it's like a great opportunity to express your faith and share stories about your faith. And some professors are openly antagonistic about that and they can feel discouraged, and I'll just support them the best that I can and, pray for them as well. Cause it's hard, they want to grow, they want to share their faith. And when someone who's in authority, who's like bashing on them, they can feel really discouraged. And so,
well, again, that goes back to community. Like you were saying, that's why I think your ministry is so important, because they, on a campus like that, being rooted and grounded in your faith and knowing what you believe and not being shaken. I've had so many conversations with students over the years where they'll ask me a question, and sometimes it's okay to say, I don't know. Let me study for myself, and I'll get back to you. There's this pressure sometimes as Christians, we feel like if we don't have the answer for every single theological or philosophical question, that it must not be true because we don't know. But philosophers and theologians has been studying things about God for centuries, millennia, that no one has the answers to about certain things. So staying rooted and grounded, and the community is important. One of the most important things, staying, that's why I think fellowship and being in the church and stuff is so important for all Christians, not just any on college campuses, but particularly because that's such a prime time of life, where you're especially for men, young men, because they're developing, their prefrontal cortex is developing while they're in those prime years, early years. So being able to go out there and share the truth with them and remind them who they are in Christ, remind them they're loved by God and they are made for a purpose. And then when they go up against the humanities teacher that is an evolutionist or whatever, they can have the spirit of love towards that person and understand, look, that's what they believe and know, and that's what they've been teaching for so long. So that's why they're so antagonistic towards Christianity. And the world has always been hostile towards the truth. And we know this as Christians, that it's a hostile environment out there. So that's why we need each other. That's super important. Yeah. So what about like the party scene? You know what I mean? I mean, I'm not asking if you go to any parties, but you call it, I don't know. I went to college in 2005. That was 20 years ago. Okay. And I don't know, do they still party on colleges these days?
Yes, but like CSI is, it's strange. Like
it's still got that Idaho culture.
It's not as metropolitan, I would think. Yeah, I know. I do know they exist. So, kids are, making not good decisions.
Yeah.
But I don't hear as much about it.
Well, the only reason I asked you that is because sometimes, living that party lifestyle, that's also priming the ground of your heart to receive Jesus. And, you never know, in that cafeteria at lunchtime sometime when there's a hungover student from the party the night before that made some horrible decisions that the Holy Spirit is convicting, and they're coming to you and they're like, what are you offering? And you hand them something that just tells them that God loves them and their life has changed forever.
Yeah.
And because of some bad decisions they made the night before, and their heart is now been pulverized by the sin of this world, where they're ready to receive.
Yeah.
I think it's so interesting that your ministry emphasizes so much community and having that approach towards introducing young people to Christ, especially because in the season, just like we were talking about, elementary moving into middle school and middle school moving into high school. Well, and you've got all of these young people, they're really setting the trajectory of their life when they go into this college season. And in that trajectory setting, they're also going to define for themselves how they think about the church, how they think about Christ, really for the rest of their life. And it starts to become a lot harder to change those opinions as they get older. And I think, especially coming out of our generation, we came out of a very individualistic approach towards Christianity, where it was just, Jesus is my boyfriend and it's just me and Jesus. But the church and the structure of the church and being in a body of believers is so essential to the faith. And you look way back in church history, it's always been the gathered collection of believers. And that's what gave us our strength, gave us our staying power, gave us the ability to survive so many historical highs and lows throughout church history. So the fact that you're establishing these norms for them now, like, this is what it means to be a Christian, not just, oh, you can just make this silent decision in your heart. Yeah, I'm going to be a Christian, and then never talk to another believer for the rest of your life.
Yeah, no, it's so beautiful. And then you also get to practice like the fruits of the Spirit. You actually get to be patient and loving and gracious. And we also really emphasize like getting students involved with the local church, because we only have students for 2 to 4 years, depending on the college setting. And so
InterVarsity isn't connected to any singular denomination.
No, it's interdenominational. So I think that's one of our strengths too.
Absolutely.
We get to take, the beautiful things from the different congregations and be like, oh, let's do this more structured liturgy, or like, let's be a little bit more charismatic, or this is a style of praying that we can do,
awesome.
Or here's like a written prayer that people have been saying for centuries. And so that's what I love about it.
That's probably one of my favorite things that you've said so far, is the fact that it is so interconnected, because that's one of the things that's on our heart too, is church unity. Jesus prayed in John 17 that we would be one in him as he is one with his Father. And you don't see that. Churches are everywhere, and they're split up there, and they're dividing over non-essential things. And so to hear you say that, it is encouraging to see ministries like that are spread out with different denominations, and you can do different things. You can do different styles of worship. You can do different types of prayer, and even when it comes to theology, you can go through different kinds of theology. Maybe it's charismatic and Pentecostal. Maybe it's people who are cessationists and don't necessarily believe that the gifts, the sign gifts, are very active for today. But on that, doing ministry, and this isn't like a yes or no or pass or fail question, but have you seen God do miracles within your ministry? And it could be simple. It doesn't have to be, oh yeah, I saw him heal this guy's withered hand.
Oh yeah. I would definitely say yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I know when I was at Weber State University, one of the students that I was part of his story in becoming a Christian, like I would say him becoming a Christian
is a miracle. Well, that is the biggest miracle. Any of us coming to the truth of Jesus Christ is a miracle.
Absolutely.
I think him in particular, because he grew up LDS, became atheist, and then chose to follow Jesus and is still following Jesus. Like the trajectory of his life was pretty wild. And to see, and this happens with other non-Christian students, where it's like, they meet us. I like met with him intentionally and heard his story and was like, why don't you believe? Like, here's what I believe. Why don't you believe? And I don't remember our conversation now, but he remembers it. And when he tells his testimony, it's something that he talks about, which is really cool. And then it was once again because of our community loving him where he was at, not telling him that he needed to believe a certain way or do a certain thing, but just because we were like, we like hanging out with you, come hang out with us. Yeah. That he then, was only coming to the fun stuff. And then he came to one of our worship nights. And then come spring semester, he started coming to Bible study regularly. Awesome. And then he gave his life to Jesus.
And that word right there should be extremely encouraging for any parents and grandparents that are listening, because those things happen in that young man's life through prayer, through people praying for him and him, slowly transitioning and now a wonderful born again believer on fire for Jesus. That is your sons and daughters, your grandkids that are in college campuses that you might be worried about or caught up in the wrong scene or with the wrong people. No, when we walk with a God who is a God of hope, and he is a saving God. And there's nothing better. I was just preaching this the other night on a Sunday night. There's nothing better than to have a brand new believer in your life, or to see somebody be a believer, So for instance, I worked at Olive Garden before I worked here.
Okay.
And I worked with this young man who's in ministry. He's doing ministry now, which is awesome. And I knew him a little bit before he became a Christian. And I was working at Olive Garden. He was serving. We were just, talking stuff. I was also doing ministry while I was a bartender at Olive Garden, and then I was a youth pastor at night, or other way around. It was bartender at night, youth pastor in the morning, right? And everyone would give me a hard time for that, but it was good. It was an awesome time to minister to people and all that. And I never saw this guy. He quit. He went and started working at another restaurant. And we went to this restaurant just a few months ago, and he walks up, and I'm like, "Oh, that's that dude. I know you. We used to work together, and we used to have somewhat spiritual conversations. And this dude is totally on fire for God. It's like night and day. And I see that, and I'm like, man, God is still at work. And so, as we kind of wrap up, what are some of the things that you do? I just want to get kind of personal, not like super personal, but what are some of the things you do for your own spiritual health? Do you have mentors? Do you have people you can fight in your relationship with Jesus? How do you, because ministry can be depressing. There's seasons of depression in ministry. There's seasons of great encouragement. It's always been said, the best thing about ministry is the people, and the hardest thing about ministry is the people. So how do you stay on the right path with the Lord?
For sure. So I take a weekly Sabbath.
Good.
Where I just rest with Jesus, journal, process.
Yeah.
When it's warm, I like to go on walks, be outside.
Do you try to do it the same day every week?
It's so hard.
It is.
The goal is yes, but with some of the seasons of ministry, sometimes it's like a half day here, half day there,
right.
but intentionally resting with Jesus.
Amen.
I do have a mentor, and I also have a spiritual director. So she is someone who I just be like, here's what's going on in my life. And she's like, oh, I think I'm sensing, she gets to just kind of be an outside observer and sometimes points Jesus out to me in places that I can't see him, and that's been super helpful. I also, my supervisor, he and I meet, my coworkers and I pray once a week for our ministries, for each other. And then, in my own personal life, I love reading.
Good.
So whether that's like a devotional or a spiritual book about a spiritual topic, I love reading. Journaling is definitely a spiritual practice that I like to do.
Which is an excellent practice.
It is.
It really is.
I love it. And then worship, of course. I love singing. I love praying. All that kinds of stuff. If there's...
You ever have a season where there's just a worship, that one worship song that is, and it doesn't have to be a new song, could be an old song, but it just kind of attaches itself to you for a season?
That was fall to spring. It was Great Is Thy Faithfulness.
Amen.
Love that hymn.
So good.
Brought me some tears every time I sang it.
Oh my
every
gosh.
time I let it, I was like, and then every time I was like, guys, I know this isn't a hymn, but this hymn, hits.
There's one called,
So good.
there's a hymn called There Is a Fountain. And
That gets him
every
every
time we
time.
do that one. And we won't even, no instruments, nothing. We'll just back off and we'll just do a cappella with the
Well,
congregation.
you usually
And it's
have to back off the mic because you're crying.
It's even more
can't sing
powerful when it's just a cappella every time, man. Some of those old songs are so anointed with the words of them. So that's awesome.
Yes.
So how can people help you? How can they, reach out to you? All of those things. Well, we're going to link these things onto this podcast episode.
Yeah.
So you'll be able to, if you want to share this with your social media and your account, you can do that. But if it's just a small fee, just kidding.
I don't know about that.
But how can we, your email, if people want to give financially, what other things they can be doing to help you?
Yes. Yeah. So we can link my email address if people want to send encouragement, or like email me so that I can put them on my update and prayer letter so that people know what's going on in the ministry and how they can be praying. I also have a donation website. We have one for us and then one for the students. I will be like specifically asking for scholarship money very soon. So that's something that
Do you guys do fundraisers at all?
we have, but most of the time it's like, hey, my students need money. Can you give? And then people are faithful and they're like, yes. And I'm like, great. So that's something that I'll be doing next month. Actually, I'll be like, hey friends, conferences and camps are coming up. Like we had this many students last year. We're going to have more. They need financial scholarships. So
do you get to go with InterVarsity to certain conferences each year?
I get to go to the camp each year because I work it. I teach, depending on what it is. We go through the book of Mark. So the first year, the first half, and the second year, the second half. So the past few years I've taught Mark 1, and that's been fun. So camps, because I teach, conferences. Yes. Last year I just got to like be there and hang out with my students. The year before I like taught a seminar. And then for our missions conference this year, I'm a coach for specifically the student leaders who will be like going through that. But so I have 2 donation websites that people can donate to. We have our Instagram. That's just like, here's fun things that the ministry is doing. If people know college students who are going to CSI, they can even be like, hey, check out this page.
Is there a Facebook too, or just an Instagram?
Just Instagram. Okay. Yes. Gen Z doesn't use Facebook.
Not very helpful for college ministry.
So Instagram is where it's at, actually. Let's see. I don't know if there's anything else. But in terms of prayer, school starts in like 3 weeks.
Yeah. So you get to do that. You get to do that first week thing again.
Yes. So prayers for all the back to school things. I will have actually a back to school prayer meeting with faculty and staff. That'll be our third year doing it, which is exciting.
That's awesome.
Prayers for that. We're reaching out to so InterVarsity doesn't just reach undergraduate students. We have a graduate
I got it. I knew what you meant.
And a faculty ministry as well. So I've been reaching out to them. We are trying to figure out something, professors are busy. So that's for connecting the Christian and believing professors on campus, which is exciting.
That is exciting.
Now, can people come alongside and serve with you?
Yes. Yeah. There's also that. People can volunteer.
Awesome.
One of the ways is through providing like snacks or supplies for Bible studies or other events. I would love like a volunteer, like part-time volunteer. That'd be really cool.
Yeah.
So if anyone's like, I'm feeling a call to do something more, I would love to connect with them. You can just email me.
Yeah.
So prayers for incoming students, that their hearts would be soft. And that students would just be bold and take risks, that they would say yes, especially if they're non-believing, but they're curious. We always pray for curiosity. Like, Lord, would you bring a spirit of curiosity, a spirit of openness?
When they start asking, they start thinking.
Yeah. The beginning of the school year sounds like where the heaviest missions aspect of your ministry really comes in, and evangelism. So we'll be praying that
absolutely
the Lord gives soft hearts, open ears, that spirit of curiosity. And we're excited for you. We're excited for this season. It's incredible to see how the ministry in our local college is growing. And we just want to see that continue to thrive and continue to impact the community around us because of that fruit of lives saved.
Yeah.
So,
all right, Micka, thank you so much for taking this time in this very hot room to just tell us about yourself, and as you continue to serve and we are able to partner alongside of you, we'll do check-ins and updates and get involved where we can get involved. But we really appreciate it. We put all the links on the bottom in the description of this, and we hope that all of our listeners enjoyed the episode And remember to be praying for Micka. She definitely needs it.
Yes.
It's a dark world out there, and you know that it is hostile when you shine the light into a dark world. So that is what she's doing, and it's awesome and exciting to see God doing the work and revivals happening in our land, in our state, in our own towns. It's amazing. So thank you again, and we hope you are blessed, and we'll see you next time.